Hello to everyone and welcome to Essegi Automation. We're here in our production facility. As you can see, we're still working despite coronavirus. We're moving now to the webinar station, which is located in our demo room. You may hear some noises, production noises, while I will be holding this webinar. Let's see here. We're going to switch to the main station. All right. Okay. Thank you for joining our webinar. We're very happy to have you with us today. We have a very special guest. He worked in electronic production field since 1975, having co-founded 3 companies during his career. He retired as president and CEO of Juki Automation System in 2018. And he served 8 years as a member of the IPC Board of Directors and is a recipient of the IPC President's Award for service to the organization. He was also an original member of the SMTA, which is the Surface Mount Technology Association, and has also been a member of the SMTA. He was also the only non-Japanese in its 82 years history to hold the position of Executive Operating Officers of Juki Corporation in Tokyo. He has written and lectured extensively in the field of electronics manufacturing. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing okay. It's the longest I've ever been home in weeks in a row. I'm in my 6th week of stay home for Nevada, but I'm doing fine.
So everybody knows that you have retired, but you're still active in the market as a consultant, right?
That's correct. I work about, I'd say half-time.
Great. Great. Thank you, Bob, for taking the time to joining this webinar. I want to ask you a few questions about your career first. So when and how did you start working in the distribution of equipments for electronics manufacturing?
Well, actually, after I got out of college, a friend of mine, we'd worked together when I was in high school in a gasoline station, called me and said he wanted to start a company to sell products, tools, and supplies to Silicon Valley companies. And I joined him in 1975. The 2 of us started the company, and we worked together for 9 years. And at the end of the 9 years, we had 90 employees and offices in 3 states, California, Oregon, and Washington. And we're doing about 30 million in revenue. So it was an interesting experience starting a company from the ground up.
I've heard many of your stories, and I know I can say you're a man of success in terms of business. I think that your advice and your ideas about this market are very valuable. Tell us about the most difficult time in your business career and how did you overcome it?
Well, I think probably the most difficult time that I had was in the recession of 2000, 2001, where business really dropped steeply in the United States. I was told by my superiors in Tokyo to lay off 20% of the employees. But rather than do that, I instituted salary reductions, pay cuts, 10% for the employees and 25% for the management. And we kept everybody, and about 1.5 years later, we were able to restore the pay cuts, and we didn't lose a single employee. And so that was a difficult period. This is a difficult period now for companies with the COVID-19, but we were able to get through it then, and we will get through it now.
Thank you, Bob. Was a smart decision to the one you took to reduce the salaries and being able to keep the people in the company. People are the most valuable part of a company, and probably this was a great advantage when everything started back, to have the people, right people in your company that already know everything. Was a wise decision.
Well, yeah, and in technical industry, the people and their knowledge is the biggest resource the company has. And if you have a lot of skilled, well-trained people, to lose them is a big loss, because to retrain a new person to the same aptitude takes a lot of investment.
So probably companies today should do their best to keep those people in their companies. So we're today with COVID-19, we hope not, but some companies may face a similar crisis like we had back in 2008 or even worse. What would be your suggestion?
Well, you know, the government has really stepped in with the CARES Act, and is generating these forgivable loans as long as companies keep their employees on the payroll. And I think that's a smart policy. And unfortunately, it's been so overwhelmed that it's been a delay for some companies to get their funding. But hopefully now, with the passage of a second bill, companies will be able to do this and continue to keep people employed. I think that's been an important step.
Thanks. Let's switch to, it's not a different topic, but a little bit more into the EMS and OEMs companies in this market. So you have been selling many different equipments throughout your 40 years in the market. Where was the focus of EMS and OEMs 20 years ago, and where is the focus today?
Well, I think 20 years ago, probably the biggest focus of EMS companies certainly was growth. There was a lot of M&A activity, mergers and acquisitions. Companies like Sanmina, Flex, Jabil, Foxconn grew by acquiring other companies, expanding their geographic reach, and just trying to dominate the market by size. I think today the difference is a lot of companies are not so concentrating on the top line size. They're concentrating on bottom line success, making sure they're profitable. And so I think that's a little bit different attitude today than it was 20 years ago.
I believe that one of the things that has changed a lot is the well, there's more competition compared to 20 years ago. And so because of that competition, companies have to improve in quality, improve their, the way they handle things, the efficiency in the company. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think efficiency is important always to run a successful business.
All right, so as you know, Essegi specializes in material handling. So we produce automated warehouses. So let me deepen this point a little bit. When did you see the first automated storage solution? And what was missing in your opinion that made that solution not so interesting for the market? Because I believed you met this product quite a few years ago.
Yes, well, I think the first storage towers I saw were at Productronica. They were made by a company in Munich called Royatel. And Royatel very quickly formed a partnership with MyData, who started to sell the towers along with their placement equipment.
How many years ago?
I'd say 10 to 12 years ago, this started to become popular.
And
but you know, these were pretty primitive units. They held a few hundred component reels, you know, delivered one reel at a time. When you sent a bill of materials, it would present a reel, the operator had to take it, then the next reel would come, and then the operator would take it, and so on. And it was the same way to return parts to the tower. You had to put the part in the loading stage, the machine would take it, then you would put another part there and the machine would take it. So it was kind of a one at a time approach. It organized the components well, but it didn't save any labor cost in pulling components or putting them away.
Probably this is one of the reasons why this product, I say this typology of product did not take hold of the market very quickly. So in your opinion, what are some of the characteristics customers should be looking for in an automated storage?
Well, I think today there's a much wider variety of products on the market. I know that several companies around the world have introduced storage towers. But I think that the largest area to be concerned with is cost. And like placement machines, I remember when I sold one of my first big placement machines back in the early 1980s, I sold Boeing a system that did 6,000 components per hour. It was about 35 feet long and it cost $1.5 million. Today, you could buy a placement machine that would take maybe 10% of the floor space of that, run it several times the speed, and cost you around $120,000. So price performance has improved greatly, and storage towers is the same. The cost per reel stored has gone steeply down, almost in a straight line curve over the last 12 years or so. And so today you can get a much more capable unit at a much lower cost per reel. And I think that's the biggest trend we've seen.
Thank you. What about the aspect of modularity, flexibility? Are those aspects that a customer should be looking for, or a warehouse that covers the whole warehouse and is a solution that you think?
Well, I think that of course, flexibility is always something to be desired, so you can handle new business as it comes in. You know, most towers take a modular approach. That is, if you add a second tower or a third tower or even a fourth tower, the software works together. When you add a tower, it's still one warehouse. When you add another tower, it's still the same warehouse, just with more capacity. So the towers share information, pool their data, and act as a cohesive warehouse. And I think that's important in deciding which tower you want to get.
The reason why I ask you this question is because we have seen with COVID-19, when Asia was blocked, big companies here in Europe had to quickly reconfigure their production to accommodate to the lack of production on the Asian side. And I've seen that being able to reconfigure not only the lines, but also the warehouse very quickly, at least the buffer, was an important aspect for this company to be able to run.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, the last couple of weeks, I've been working on an article by interviewing quite a few customers around the country into how they're dealing with COVID-19, what they're doing for employee safety, how they're able to operate within the state regulations in the various states, and what percentage of production they're doing. And I've been very surprised to see that many EMS companies are doing between 60 and 70% of normal production volume, even during this period. And you know, I think those customers with storage towers have found them quite valuable, because the towers can pull the kits, and then one person can go and collect them. So it's very easy to keep distancing. Where if you have several people moving around in a stock room, it's more difficult to keep distancing. And so, you know, the automation of being able to pull kits without people is very valuable during this time.
Thank you, Bob. So I have a question for you, Bob. You know that we are the only company in the market using a tray or a case to hold the reels or JEDEC trays or anything that fits inside a tray. What do you think about our technology? Is it convenient or not? And if so, why?
Well, you know, of course, the simplicity of being able to handle a bare reel without a tray would be very nice, but it also has its own set of drawbacks. That is the condition of the reel or the condition of the tray for the machine to handle. You know, any robotic machine runs better with consistency rather than diversity. That is you know, your machines only have to handle two things, a 7-inch tray or a 15-inch tray. And the trays are the same on the outside, regardless of what's inside the tray. So your machines can run extremely reliably with that. In fact, I've talked to some customers who've gone more than half a year without a jam or interference inside the machine. A bare reel handling machine is totally dependent on the condition of the reel. If you have a warped reel, a bent reel, a cracked reel, these all are chances to have a misplacement inside the machine or an error in transfer, and that may result in a jam, which you have to open the machine and clear. And so the trays offer a consistent, reliable way to move the components around, and it doesn't matter the condition of the reel inside. And so that's one advantage of using a case rather than using the bare reel. But the other thing that's impressed me about your machines is the fact that the cases are adjustable. That is, you can take a 8mm case and you can change it to a 16mm or a 24mm or a 32mm just by adding some expansion shims. And you can reconfigure the cases to whatever your component mix is at the time. And then the machine can take whatever mix of cases you give it. Most storage machines today, you order them in a set configuration. So many 8mm slots, so many 16, so many 24, and so forth. But if your mix of components changes, then your slots no longer match the mix of components that you have. And the only way you can get around that is open up the machine and reconfigure it, have a service guy come in and spend a couple of days reconfiguring the shelves, recalibrating the machine, and then you're good until the next time you need reconfiguration. And with your UltraFlex system, the machine will take whatever mix is given, and the cases are adjustable to match the mix. So I think that's a very strong argument for cases. The fact that the total flexibility of the system means you never have to worry about what mix of components you can store inside. And that I think is a strong point.
Thank you, Bob. That's a good feedback for us. And we have some people probably that joined our webinar looking for a solution. What is your advice to compare the different solutions out there in the market?
Well, I think that the last time I looked, there's about 15 companies now making storage towers, especially if you look at some of the Chinese companies. So there's a lot of things to consider. But, you know, I think like anything else in manufacturing, price performance has got to be probably the #1 judge. So, you know, what is the cost per component to store it? And, you know, that is something you can calculate quite easily. The total cost of the storage system divided by the number of components that it stores gives you a cost per component. And that's a good way to compare different towers of different configurations to get down to the base of exactly how much you're paying to store a reel or to store a tray.
Well, that's a good suggestion, and I think it's the right starting point also because money are the driver for a decision, first of all, and then also follows all the technology advantages of a solution. So we have also probably here companies that wants to start to improve their material flow in the company. Out of your experience, where should a company start looking for when trying to improve the material flow?
Well, you know, that's a good point, and I think your new product behind you there, the incoming material station, is a very interesting product because it allows parts to be received, unique IDs to be generated, and the information to be transferred to the ERP system or the MES system almost instantly when the part is arrived at the company. And you know, I noticed that's been quite successful since you introduced it in the market. And I think a lot of companies probably would buy that first before they would even get a storage tower, because it enables them to streamline the receiving process and incoming inspection, make sure the correct ID is placed on each reel. And I think that's a valuable tool to making sure your production and your stock is well organized.
Thank you, Bob. I have a last question for you, and then I will check if we have some questions from the participants. So you know that we have modular solutions. We can start from external storage dynamically, then we go to the ISM 500, which is a pick-to-light system. Then we have the single tower solution, which is just a tower to feed the line as a buffer or as a whip area. And then we can cover the full warehouse with the full automated solution. What do you think a company, where do you think a company should start? Should start from the buffer or the total solution?
I think it really depends on what kind of company it is and what kind of business they're doing. You know, I've seen a lot of companies use storage towers as a point of use, a tool, that is, have them near the lines to provide the kits immediately to the setup area, and then replenish the towers at the line with updates and shipments from the main warehouse to keep them stocked. But if it's a large OEM company or a really large EMS company doing high volume, they may want to just kit the whole operation from the warehouse and use the storage towers there in the main warehouse area. And I've seen some companies do both, have point of use towers at the line and being restocked by more towers in the main warehouse. So, you know, I think it really depends on the volume you're doing, whether you're doing a high mix production or a high volume production. That would be the choice. And today, you know, if we look at the density of storage, even your company, if you take your product of 5 years ago, the 2000 machine, it held about 2,000 reels. Today, your 3600 machine holds, you know, 1,600 more reels, so 3,600 total, and the floor space is less than what the 2000 was. So that really increases the density and allows a customer to store a lot more parts in a lot less floor space. And I think that's also a valuable thing today.
Thank you. I know, Bob, you're writing a white paper. You have written already a few that we will share with the participants to the webinar, but you're also writing a new one. And can you share something about that with us?
Well, I've just finished one on integrating the storage tower into the factory environment for Industry 4.0, and that is, you know, ERP system, MES system, software that companies use to run their environment. You really need to embed the storage tower fully into your software system in the factory in order to get the best result. And so the paper covers that. And then I'm going to be working on further automation using automatic intelligent vehicles or automated guided vehicles to transport the components to and from the storage units and automate the transport of components as well. So that's something I'll be working on in the next few months.
That's great. And what about the survey you spoke? You told me about a survey you have been doing for COVID-19 with some companies.
Well, that's an article. Yeah, that's an article I'm working on, and I've talked to about 7 customers so far. I have about 3 or 4 more I need to contact and do an interview, and then I'll be completing that, and I'm sure it will be published within the next 3 months.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Bob, for taking the time to participate to this webinar. I'm looking forward to see if there is any question here.
Okay.
Let me see. So we have a question here. In addition to integrating with the enterprise level software systems, such as ERP and MES, are there advantages to also integrating the storage towers directly with the SMT lines?
Yes, there are, depending on what level of SMT and what generation of SMT machines you have. And I think that's been one of Essegi's strengths, actually, is the fact that you offer interfaces to any brand of placement equipment, whereas some of the other companies just integrate. For instance, My Data just integrates their tower with their own equipment. But let me give you a couple of examples of what communication between an SMT line and the storage towers can benefit you. One would be the empty reel philosophy. Most companies that make placement today keep track of the quantity of components on each reel. And you can set a warning level. So let's say a reel with some decoupling capacitors is running low, and when it hits 200 parts left in the reel, it will send a warning. And the tower can receive this warning, stop what it's doing, pull another reel of those capacitors, put it in the secondary exit drawer that you have, and then sound an alarm and say, this reel is needed urgently on line 2, machine 3, feeder 20. And so the part can be there before it runs out, and it can be spliced, or you can load another feeder and do a hot swap on the feeder. And that prevents downtime. Whereas if the part ran out, you've got to sit, the line's got to sit a few minutes waiting for you to replenish the part. So that's one thing that can be quite valuable. And several of the large EMS companies have found big benefits from that already. Another thing you can do is if you don't have one of the new X-ray component counters, it is possible to keep your inventory by communicating with the line, because most placement machines know how many parts they picked and placed from each reel. They know if they had any mispicks. And so by adding those two numbers together and subtracting it from the reel quantity when it left the tower, you can reset that quantity when it comes back. And it's not 100% accurate, but maybe it's 99.5, and it's pretty good. So if you communicate back and forth with the lines, when the reel comes back to the tower, it will ask the line, how many did you use? And then it can calculate the new values. So those would be two things, just two things that you could do by communicating with the placement line.
Thank you, Bob. We're getting a few more questions, and I want to go in order of receiving. So the second question is, obviously it will be it will vary between products, but can you talk about general recommendation for maintenance and calibration with storage towers?
Well, yeah, I think that any automated machine is going to eventually need maintenance. I think with a storage tower, the most important thing is to keep it clean. And that means probably to vacuum it out quarterly or at least every half year, because you will get some dust in the tower as a result of the paper tape being stored. Paper tape always generates a little dust, especially when you peel back the cover tape, and over months that can build up. Most of the storage towers I've seen require some lubrication every 6 months, and some of them do have recalibration procedures. So of course those should be followed to the manufacturer's specifications.
I confirm that for our technology, at least, that's the point. Actually, maintenance is not a big issue. It's something that the operators can easily learn and do themselves. And I will say that mostly is software upgrades with the new options and things that require the time for the maintenance, more than the machine itself. We have another question here. Very interesting one. How does the system help save on labor cost? Are there examples of cost savings?
Yeah, well, very simply, that if you take, for instance, an Essegi storage tower, when you send it the bill of materials, the tower starts pulling the kit. It will stack up components up to 27 cases high, up to 54 reels at a time, before it needs to be emptied. So if you have let's say you have 3 or 4 storage towers and you send it a bill of materials, each one will pull their part of the kit. And when they're done, they'll sound an alarm. And then only then does the operator go and collect the stack from each unit. So an operator does not have to be present while the parts are being pulled. They only have to go for 5 or 10 seconds and take the stack out when the kit is full, when the kit is complete. So that's a big advantage. And the same thing for putting components away, returning them to stock. You simply put the reel barcode side up in the case, you stack the cases, you put them in the tower, push a button and walk away, and the machine returns all the parts to stock and accounts for them. So yeah, depending on how many kits you pull per day, that can be significant labor savings. If you're doing manually, you know, I think a good company probably takes about a minute apart to pull a part from stock manually. If you're faster, good for you. If you're slower, I'm not surprised. But the storage towers can take all of that time away, and those people can be doing feeder setup or can be doing some other task while the kit is being pulled or returned to stock. So that's what I mean by labor savings. And, you know, I think there are spreadsheets where you can calculate that. And with the climbing labor rate today in the United States, many states going now to $15 an hour base rate, which probably means about a $22 or $23 an hour loaded rate for the company. You can save quite a bit of money.
Yeah, well, let me add something. So also, if we consider that, so there are some countries where labor cost is very low, and so the return on investment has to be found somewhere else. And I think that one aspect is the line stoppage. These kind of systems allow the line to run without lack of material. So any line stoppage related to material can be reduced to almost zero, thanks to an automated system that provides reels to the line. And also we have to consider there is the no man's land in each production floor, which is the reels returning from the line to the warehouse. I've seen many times hundreds of reels standing there for a long time because it's time consuming to return back the material to the warehouse. So being able to load back this material quickly is a great advantage.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of factories with bin boxes of parts waiting to be restocked in the stock room. And usually there's somebody running around looking through the boxes trying to find the one reel that hasn't been returned to stock yet, but is needed for another kit. So definitely, I think one big advantage of storage towers is they can put away the used components just as fast as they can pull the new kits. So that's a point that a lot of people overlook.
Thanks, Bob. Let me check other questions. We're about to finish our time, but let me select a. Some people are typing questions in the chat, and some other. Let me. Okay, this one has been answered. So let's see this one. Hi, as related to SMT machines, there are already some standards evolving like CFX or OML. Also for conveyors, pulls, arms. What are the plans for material towers? Is there also plan to create a standard or join to some initiative?
Well, I think the standards body in our industry mostly is the IPC. They have the authority to generate standards, and they regularly update them. I think, as far as inter-machine communication, which is what really CFX is, I think that most of the tower manufacturers do comply with the CFX communication standard, and in linking the software of the towers to placement machines and other machines in the line. So I think that's pretty well taken care of. As the tower industry grows, you may see some more cooperation. I mean, the interesting thing here will be, I don't think there'll be any problem with the Western companies as far as complying with standards. But of course, when you get to China, some of the Chinese manufacturers have their own ideas. So whether or not they comply with standards will remain to be seen.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. We have another question here. It's to Essegi, but I know you know our product, so I will let you answer. Can you explain how moisture-sensitive components control it's managed with Essegi automation?
Yeah, the tower is humidity controlled to less than 5%. It has automated humidity control. And all of the tracking of the part is done automatically by the unique ID. So let's say you have a reel of components. When they leave the tower, in the record you have the internal humidity of the tower, you have the external humidity of the factory, you have the time to the second that the part was leaving, and while the part is out, the countdown continues as to the eligibility period. And it's possible to export this data to show what reels are out, what the eligibility time is, and so forth. So all of that tracking, which is now done usually with dry boxes manually with clipboards or so forth, is automatically tracked in the tower. And anytime you want to see the history of a part, you just have to enter that part's ID, and you can see a complete life history from the time the part came into stock until it was empty. So, this prevents any, forgetfulness and writing things down and having to reconstruct records later. It's all done in the background automatically.
Thank you, Bob. One more question before we close. Okay. Oh, many questions. Sorry if we will not be able to answer all your questions. How do you think that will be the real path to Industry 4.0? How far from this we are?
Oh, we are in the first 20%, no question. And the idea of the lights out factory, I think this is still some years away. it's very, very difficult to totally automate a factory. You'll still need a few people around to fix things when they go wrong. But I think there'll be steady progress towards it. And I think what's valuable for a customer today is being able to evaluate each machine they purchase to see how it fits into a future automated factory. What are the communication capabilities? What are the capabilities of the machine to achieve that, so that they can start to build towards that goal and make sure that each piece of equipment they add fits into that picture.
Thank you, Bob. I have questions that are jumping from one aspect to the other. I have an interesting question. Too often we're in the middle to end of the kitting process, and we discover that either we do not have the part or the part is on the shop floor. Can you help with that?
Yeah, definitely. How the automated storage tower usually works is when you send a bill of materials to the tower to be pulled, within about 30 seconds, you'll get a receipt back, and it will say, I have all the components, I'm pulling the kit, or it will say, I'm short this component. Do you want me to continue to pull the kit, or do you want me to wait until this part comes into stock? And so you'll know immediately if you're short. But the towers also have the knowledge of if a reel is out on the floor and being used in another job, it will know that it's in that kit and it's being used on that job. So you'll have that information also immediately right in front of you. And you can make your decision whether it makes sense to split that reel or to wait until the job currently running is done before you take the reel and start the other job. So I think the storage tower doesn't just organize components, it organizes information so that you'll get the proper information back very promptly and being able to make a timely decision.
I believe that when you work with an automated storage, you don't find yourself in that kind of issue. I mean, you know that much ahead in advance. You know already that the reel is on the line, you know what it's available for the next job. It's everything in the machine already. You can pull it out quickly. So probably when you change your production style to an automated solution, everything changes, and also the typology of problems you face. I have an interesting question here. Any thoughts on the use of AGV, AMR to deliver material throughout a factory? Is it cost effective yet?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. You know, I know there are projects ongoing today where several customers are using AGVs to transport components from the warehouse to the production line of the setup area. And, you know, and there's continuing great interest in that. So I know that I was talking on one project where the distance between the warehouse and the line is almost half a kilometer. So this is quite a distance.
Yeah.
But yeah, there definitely is interest in that. And several of the large EMS companies have projects doing those things right now.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I'm tempted to show you something, and probably I will not resist this temptation. Let me show you here. So here on the side we have the AGV, and here we have the trolleys, and here we have the whole automated system. So it's real. We already have projects. We actually have one really nice project in Japan, already running for more than 1 year. And we are developing now the second revision of this product to be able to reproduce it for all the companies. And we have some evaluations already going on with this solution. So I think that we're going very fast to reach a fully automated
Yeah, and I was also
production.
impressed at the Productronica show to see the integration of one of the automated X-ray counters with a group of towers, and really enabling automated counts during downtime. So at night, the machine could be counting components fed to it by the storage tower system. And the idea of automated cycle counts in the middle of the night probably would excite a lot of logistics people around there. But these things are coming.
Yes, I agree. It's happening already. We started late, but we're not going to finish late. All right, so we have only 3 minutes left, and I want to finish with one last question. I apologize to all the participants that may have written a question here on the chat or the question and answers. We have many of those, and if we have not been able to answer your questions, but you will receive an email after this webinar, where you will receive a link to download the white papers written by Bob about automation and logistics in EMS companies. And you will be able to contact us back, and we will answer your questions, and be happy also to give you a demo here. We have all the cameras ready to provide this kind of service. So Bob, one last question. How do you see the smart factory of the future in the world of electronic manufacturing?
Well, I think, we'll get there. One thing's for sure. I've been in this industry for, 45 years now, and I've seen tremendous changes over that time. Things that we do today that you couldn't have imagined 40 years ago. So I'm sure that the electronics industry will get there with more and more automation. We're seeing some already, and we're seeing advances, and we're seeing new developments every month. So I have no doubt that the industry will get there.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for sharing with us your experience, some parts of your life. I hope you have enjoyed it. Since you're at home, this is something. It's
been enjoyable, and just let me say one thing to all the participants. Thank you for sitting so long and listening to me. But please be safe. Your families be safe. Be well, and let's get through this pandemic. And hopefully, we'll see better days ahead as we do.
Thank you very much. And from Essegi Automation, thank you for participating.